Good morning, everybody. So good morning, everybody. It is 10:05 on October 2nd, and it is my pleasure to call to order the Policy and Innovation Committee of SACOG. So welcome, everyone. Glad you're here. At this time, would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May we have the roll call, please?
Yes, directors, when I call your name, please indicate your presence. Director Desmond.
Here.
Dowden Calvillo.
Present.
Houdeschelt.
Here.
Saragosa.
Here.
Schaefer.
Here.
Stollard.
Here.
Vang. Absent. Viegas. Absent. Vice Chair Burris. Absent. Chair Thomas.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, and thank you all for joining us this Monday morning. At this time, we move on to public communications. Robert, is there anyone that wishes to speak to the Policy and Innovation Committee?
Just checking my email real quick. Looks like there's no public comment at this time.
All right, thank you. Looking at the consent calendar, does any director have any changes or comments on the consent calendar? I'm not seeing anyone. Do we have any public comment on the consent calendar, Robert?
There's no public comment.
All right.
Madam Chair, I'll move the consent calendar.
Dowden Calvillo, second.
All right, Saragosa first, Dowden Calvillo second. Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, roll call, please.
All right, directors, when I call your name, please indicate your vote. Director Desmond.
Aye.
Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Houdeschelt.
Aye.
Saragosa.
That was a smile.
Sorry, multitasking, aye.
Thank you. Schaefer.
Aye.
Stollard.
Aye.
Vang. Absent. Viegas. Absent. Vice Chair Burris. Absent. And Chair Thomas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Our action item is number 6, approve the amendment to the budget. So Loretta, good morning. Thank you for walking us through this item.
Thank you, Chair Thomas, and good morning, directors. The purpose of this amendment number 1 to the budget and OWP for the fiscal year 2023-24 is to add revenues of approximately $716,000 for the current fiscal year as a result of the 2 recent Caltrans Sustainable Transportation Plan Grant Awards and also the Carbon Reduction Program planning. The first grant award is for the US 50 Comprehensive Multimodal Corridor Plan in the amount of $500,000 plus local match of $250,000. With this grant, SACOG will work with consultant in partner with Caltrans District 3 and in collaborations with various local agency and stakeholders to identify solutions for the US 50 corridor. The second grant award is for the Del Paso Multimodal Transportation Network in the amount of $450,000 plus local match of $65,100. This project will build on the Valley Rail project and the region's Green Means Go program to integrate the future's rail network and station within the Del Paso neighborhood, and also to enhance the multimodal connectivity between the proposed Valley Rail stations and 2 existing SACOG light rail stations. And the third revenues that added to the OWP number 1 is the carbon reduction planning activities. The board approved the program strategy recommendations for the carbon reduction program for the 6th county in June 2023. Staff will be working with partner organizations and in coordination with PCTPA and also EDCTC on funding guidelines, which includes programming, expenditures, and eligibility requirements for the program. The amendment number 1 also includes adjustment to carryovers from the previous budget years This includes the decrease in REAP or defer in REAP 1 housing funds of approximately 2.3 million. HCD had granted 1 additional year for member jurisdictions to expense these funds. So some of these funds will push out to fiscal year 2024-25. The carryover amount also includes federal formula and multi-year grants amount of approximately 233,000, Green Means Go of 219,000, and also use of SMF funds for the race grant match of 289,000. The amendment number 1 also reflects the indirect cost allocation plan and fringe benefit rates that was approved by the FTA in June 2023. And then also some additional staff allocation between projects as a result of the new grants and funding that I mentioned earlier. With the changes noted above, the amendment number 1 to the budget and OWP for the fiscal year 2023-24 reflects a total revenue and expenditures of $40,079,913, a decrease of $792,403, or 1.9% compared to the adopted budget of $40,872,316. Attachment A shows the changes in the overall revenue by funding source comparing to the final adopted budget for the fiscal year. And then also attachment C, B, and DE provide summary of revenue and expenditures included in the amendment number 1. Also included is attachment G, which is a summary of changes to the board and advocacy budget comparing to the adopted budgets. There are no changes to the total amount, but just minor updates to expenditures by categories. With that, staff is recommending that the Policy and Innovation Committees take actions to recommend the board to approve amendment number 1 to the budget and OWP for the fiscal year 2023-24. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, well, thank you so much, Loretta. And these are 2, exciting amendments. We were talking about the congestion in the Fosterville and the Highway 50 corridor, and this is exactly one of the amendments that will help address that. Are there any comments or questions by directors on this amendment? No, not seeing any. All right, excellent. Robert, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment.
Okay, excellent. And let's see here.
Hodeschelt moves the item.
Great.
Stallard will second.
Excellent. Any further discussion?
Just to say, Loretta, great work as always. So appreciate everything and staff does on these items. So thank you.
Thank you.
And these are 2 really important projects that really excited to see them moving through. All right, maybe have the roll call vote, please.
Yes, directors, when I call your name, please indicate your vote. Director Desmond.
Aye.
Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Hodeschelt.
Aye.
Zaragoza.
Aye.
Schaefer. Absent. Stollard.
Aye.
Thank you. Bang. Absent. Villegas. Absent. Vice Chair Burris. Absent. Chair Thomas.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, excellent. Thank you. That was our only action item this morning, and now we move into the information section, which is always rich in this policy committee. So let's see, we have our advocacy update. Good morning, Christina.
Hi, good morning. Thank you. So we've got both our state and federal lobbyists here to give us an update. As is usually the case with the advocacy update, a lot has been happening. And so they've got rich, good verbal updates for us. That was kind of more than we could put in the memos given the timing on everything. And we'll start with Jason Pavlicek to give us a federal update.
Good morning, Jason. What's going on in Washington?
Just another sleepy Monday. Nothing really
Excellent.
going on here. I mean,
At least we have a
Christine and I
budget.
we were trying to figure out what we were going to talk about, and I said I'll figure something out. But
Excellent.
good morning. It's great to speak with you all on this fine Monday morning. First off, I'd be remiss if I did not mention the passing of Senator Feinstein and the impact she made on not just the SACOG region but our nation. And certainly a terrible loss for the state. But in all seriousness, we were talking with Christina on Friday. We were preparing sort of to give an update on how long the government shutdown was going to be and what impact it could have on transportation. And a funny thing happened on the way to the forum. Speaker McCarthy decided that it was easier to work with the middle 400 versus the outer 80, or however that math works out. And we got a 45-day clean extension. The Senate disregarded their bill and quickly took up the House passed bill, and literally between about 11 a.m. Saturday and 11 p.m. Saturday evening, the budget was rescued, at least for the next 45 days or so. I think the one thing I will talk about is, what this means for the rest of the year and the full budget. There is no long-term budget plan. It wasn't as though the speaker sort of unveiled this plan of this is what we're going to be doing in the next 45 days. He still has a real problem on the right flank of his party. It is likely that either this week or next week, Congressman Gates from Florida will move to vacate the chair, as was agreed to in the rules this year. And what that effectively means is it will test whether Speaker McCarthy will remain Speaker McCarthy. And I think what will be interesting is there's certainly enough angry Republicans that if the Democrats decide to support the motion to vacate, Speaker McCarthy will not have the votes. He's got a very slim majority right now. And if Democrats were to vote against him effectively, it would throw the Republican leadership in the House in peril. And we would be back where we were in January, where there were 16, 17, 18 votes for a speaker. That said, I think the speaker's sort of olive branch motion to the middle, I'm not sure if he would call it an olive branch, but it's very possible at this point that even Democrats are sort of sick of the inability of Congress to govern. And it's very possible that they will not vote to vacate the chair and instead will align with what I'll call mainstream Republicans, or the majority of the Republican Party, to keep Speaker McCarthy as Speaker. I think if that were to take place, it would be an olive branch from Democrats back to the Speaker. And there's already conversations about governing more from the middle than allowing either party's wings to really sort of hold a grip on movement forward, which would be, for a lot of us in government, a welcome change, regardless of your politics. But that's to be determined. There's a lot of time between now and then, but I believe that, truth be told, the fate of Kevin McCarthy and the Speaker will then determine what happens for the rest of the year budget, because the same fiscal problems that exist today exist 45 days from now. We think there will continue to be movement to push individual bills over the next 45 days, but it's unlikely that any one of the appropriation bills will be able to make it out of the House or the Senate. So I would say that this is a welcome relief. It is not a reprieve. And I think as we monitor the next 45, the next 2-3 weeks, we will have a better understanding as to if there's a shutdown imminent in 45 days, or if they will either pass a full year CR, which would very much be similar to budget, amounts from last year. I think probably a smaller reduction, or if they'll actually pass a full bill. And I think what's important for us and for this region is if they do an actual bill that will include earmarks and some of the projects that are in there for both transportation and other elements of other justice and et cetera. So that is sort of where we are at. Again, when I talked to Christine on Friday, we weren't sure what we were going to say, but I told her it would be 2 to 3 minutes at the most either way. So that is where we are, and I'm more than happy to take any questions about where things stand.
Well, thank you. I thought that was a very clear explanation on what's going on back there, and it's good news, and it's also no news, because we have no idea where this is going. So yeah, but at least the moment has been met, but hopefully they will find their way through for sustainable.
I hope so. I really believed that it was going to shut down. I thought it was going to be My guess was 30 days, and I have many other colleagues that thought it was gonna be longer, so this is very much welcome and good news.
It
I
is
see
for
another
now.
question, sorry.
Yeah, for
Yes.
now. Director Haudashelt.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Thomas. So, so Florida has, Matt Gates has said what he wants to say. Could we be seeing a sequential, single vote, right? Going to Georgia, going to Colorado, coming back to Ohio with congressional members, each doing what Matt Gates is proposing this week. What I call a vote of no confidence from the outer rims of the solar system.
Yeah, I think it's, I think it's possible. The way the rules are set up, he can, this year in this Congress, I think there will be a motion to vacate the chair. And I think that means that there will be, we'll see what happens. It's.
You can say it remains to be seen as an appropriate answer.
That's it. I'm trying to find the words to thank you. It remains to be seen. I think it will be a telltale sign for how the rest of this Congress is going to operate, and I believe the near-term Congresses as well.
Okay. Any
Jason,
other questions?
I do. So Jason, just on that, do you, because I realize they changed the rules so that a single member can bring up a call to vacate the chair, but on that motion, does that automatically grant it a vote on the floor, or do they have to get is it just like a second on that, or how does that play out?
There's a motion, a motion and a second, and then I got to read the rules about the timing. I want to say it's 72 hours. It's not a situation where literally immediately it goes into a vote. I think there's time allowed. I didn't read those rules that carefully to memorize them, only because in what world would this ever happen? And I probably should, 25 years of experience, I probably should have known better. But I think, and truth be told, I think at this point, Gates knows he doesn't have the votes. I think that he probably thinks it's more likely Democrats will vote for stability over effectively a broken democracy. So, but we'll see.
And I think the speaker finally arrived at that position as well, from having to try to deal with as the mayor of Roseville said, the outer rim of the party.
He did everything he could to avoid having to use Democrat votes to get something done, but it was overwhelming. I will editorialize and say that I was very, very surprised how many Democrats and how many Republicans came with the speaker's vote. I thought it was going to be closer than it was.
Interesting
Thank you.
times, that's for sure. So we'll continue to watch and monitor. Thank you so much, Jason. Appreciate the update.
Was interesting.
Yeah, fascinating. Oh. So good morning, Kiana.
Good morning, Chairwoman and directors. After Jason's update, I feel like our state level advocacy is far less dramatic, and I've got some positive things to report. So I like this lineup. I'm always happy to follow the federal political updates. So with that I did prepare a brief PowerPoint. I don't know if we were going to put that on the screen. I can just walk through it. I'm going to walk through it, and then perhaps we can share it after the meeting with you all for a takeaway. Okay, so this morning I wanted to provide an update on three key areas. First, AB 350, as you all know, SACOG sponsored bill. End of session legislative update, just some cats and dogs that we wanted to update you on as we head into the recess for a few months. And then, of course, we have the start of the second year of a 2-year legislative calendar next year. And then transit capital and operations funding. Of course, happy to answer questions outside of those topics. And as always, interrupt as I'm chatting, and happy to make it as much of a discussion as a presentation of the update. So on AB 350, pleased to report, and I think everyone is already aware that that bill did make it to the governor's desk and is awaiting his action. I am cautiously optimistic that we will have a positive outcome in the governor's office. crossing my fingers over the weekend to hopefully be able to say it was signed, but we have until October, he has until October 14th to take final action on 350 as well as the rest of the legislation. So the minute we get an update on that, you all will know ASAP. We did want to just briefly make sure everyone was aware of 4 themes of amendments that were negotiated and taken over the last, I'd say, 4 to 6 weeks of the legislative session. Oh, there we go. Thank you so much. The first is further incorporation language around further incorporation of the RAISE grant work with disadvantaged communities into the next MTP SCS update. A lot of these amendments, I think almost all of them, maybe with respect to the housing related one, were raised in the Senate Policy Committee process, as well as continued work with the Air Resources Board. And so that's, this is essentially SACOG staff and our team's work to negotiate those amendments with the author's office and external stakeholders in the legislature. So that was taken in the Senate. We ended up having to put pause on further changes to the housing element schedule, and we will need to run a subsequent bill likely next year to address that issue. That was our best option rather than getting held up in policy committee this year and trying to negotiate some additional language on the housing element schedule, knowing that we needed the bill signed this year. So we are already chatting with housing advocates and others about how we're going to continue to work on that issue next year. Of course, I think we have talked about this before, but it was taken during the Senate consideration of the bill, some new transparency and reporting language on housing and transportation outcomes. And then finally, consistent with other legislation that provided regions with extensions on their SCS adoption, limitations on which sorts of projects SACOG can apply for under the Solutions for Congested Corridors program. So I think there were, as we have had many conversations over the last 4 to 6 weeks with many of you, there were contentious negotiations at times, but I think we landed in a really good place, and we're happy with how the bill ended up in the governor's desk. I think there's another slide on that one. This was just some of the details we've already talked about, right? It is at the governor's desk. We have worked diligently over the last few weeks to get support into the governor's office from the transportation construction industry to local housing and environmental organizations. It was really a great effort, and there's just a lot of support behind the signature of 350 going into the last couple of weeks. All right. Should I pause and see if there are questions on AB 350 before we move into the next topic?
Sure, let's do that. Do any directors have any comments or questions? No, Dr. Saragosa.
Thank you. First, love the fact that you have your Northern California Carpenters toolbox in the back of your picture. So yay on that. I was just thinking in terms of next year for our SCS, likely needing legislation, thinking in our back pocket, maybe looking at, because we don't, as we did with 350, as we know how these things can take on a life of their own, to maybe look at the option of trailer bill language.
Okay.
To, as a backstop, or as maybe a dual track way of trying to get the language that we need that might work out better for us in the long run, as opposed to where a bill could end up at the end of the day. So just that, and then just want to say thank you for all the hard work on this. This was supposed to be, it was sailing through, but as we all know, at the end, things tend to change. So I really appreciate all the work that you and your team put into this to get it to the finish line.
I just have to say a nod to the entire SACOG team, and also my colleague Chris Lee, who was the point on running this bill for our team here, and did just a tremendous job. Kudos to everyone. So it was a little scary at times over those last few weeks. So yeah.
It's
Well
rather amazing how hard it is to get a 1-year extension. And it looks like we were held hostage by CARB for stuff they wanted. So it shows you what happens when you ask the legislature for anything.
Wow. Thank you for that. This should have been an easy ask, and really appreciate everyone's efforts. Thank you, Director Zaragoza, for bringing that to the table. Any other director comments on this? I know this is critically important for our region, and so I know we're all anxious to hear the results of the governor's action. So look forward to hearing a good report very soon. So
hopefully we can deliver that soon. And
excellent.
actually, Director Stollard's comments sort of bring us to the next topic, which is additional SCS regional transportation planning bills that stalled in 2023, some of which we saw those concepts and ideas popping up in the negotiations on AB 350. Some of those themes were incorporated in AB 7 and AB 6, which are both 2-year bills, Friedman authored measures. And so I think we are going to continue to have these difficult conversations around community development and providing multimodal transportation infrastructure and meeting our climate change greenhouse gas emissions reductions goals outside of AB 350. Let's just do it outside of AB 350. And I think that'll be a more positive experience for all. A couple of other bills that I think we can anticipate moving next year in some way, shape, or form is AB 1335 ZBER, which wanted to make some changes to how you accommodated RHNA and projected housing growth in the SCS. That is a 2-year bill. And then I failed to add 2 additional bills that I just think are going to come into play next year at some point. So that's SB 670 by Senator Allen. And that in its current form would create statewide VMT maps that the regions, MPOs, and others would have to use in various planning activities. And then AB 930, another Friedman bill, the RISE Act, which was another attempt, I think, at addressing, for good or bad, depending on your perspective, the loss of redevelopment and tax increment financing and the provision of public infrastructure and housing. So those are some SCS regional transportation planning bills that I think we can anticipate coming back next year in some way, shape, or form. And it's going to be another really robust policy conversation. On to bond legislation, I'm still going to be cautiously optimistic that we can make some headway in terms of creating space for programs in future bond initiatives to support things like Green Means Go and other investments that actually operationalize all of the work that's being done within the SCS MTP. But as you may be aware, once the governor and legislature started working on behavioral health reform, and the bond, AB 531, $6.38 billion bond that's going to go on the March ballot, that subsumed the conversation, and all other bond measures stalled in the last couple of months of session as such. So there are still, I counted 9 other non-mental health or behavioral health related bond measures pending in the legislature on a variety of issues: housing, climate resiliency, natural resources, education. They really do run the gamut, water, etc. So I think Chris and I intend to start having conversations with sponsors of those efforts this fall to see what can be done next year. To qualify, it's too late to qualify any additional bond measures for the March ballot. That time has passed, but the legislature has until June of 2024 to qualify something for the November ballot. So there is still some time to work on that next year. That being said, we'll see what happens to the March 2024 bond initiative, and that could spell positive or negative things for future bond efforts. Director Stollard, did I see you?
Yeah, I have a question. It's so surprising to me that the legislature can't figure out how to do a housing bond with all of the pressure for more housing in the entire state. Perhaps you can help me understand some of the dynamics around that challenge.
I think that seems like a simple question and not such a simple answer. Director Zaragoza wants to chime in, I can see.
He knows too.
Yeah, I question that as well. Housing seems like a very natural place to do a bond. And part of the behavioral health infrastructure bond is housing related. It's not the same as we have seen in the Prop 1C and some of the other past housing bond efforts. So I don't know, Director Zaragoza.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many fiefdoms within this fight between labor, YIMBY, the affordable housing advocates, coastal cities. that it just, I think, created a very, nobody could agree to something, I think, was basically with all the players that were part of this conversation. And I think it's going to continue to be challenging to come forward with sort of what I would call, almost like, they talk about a clean CR for, federal, well, a clean housing bond that everybody can agree is, the best step forward, the best path forward. So I think just a lot of not local politics, but people with different interest held that up.
It is perplexing though, right? Because we have decades of past housing bond experience with proven programs that have helped build units and move people into housing. So I scratch my head on that issue as well.
I'm just going to editorialize for a quick moment, if you will, Chair.
Please.
Every family that buys a new home in our community, and I'm sure all of your communities, is paying an increment towards affordable housing. It varies from, I think, 11,000 to as much as 30,000. And these are people trying to get into houses themselves, and they're paying these kind of funds to build affordable housing for others. And then people like me are sitting on really old Prop 13 tax bases and houses that are appreciated greatly, and we're contributing nothing. I think it's totally unfair, and we really need to revise our policy statewide. We should all be paying the cost of affordable housing, not just the new home buyers. And just the way I feel, and I don't understand why the legislature can't really take a good bite into this issue and develop a little housing equity in terms of the cost of affordable housing for people. Thank you.
Well said, Director Stollard. Yeah, no, well said. The whole system is rather upside down at times. Director Hudesheld.
Well, and this is a bridge to it, but I just checked. So ACA 13 is being held. So ACA 13 was the measure that would have required the California Business Roundtable's measure to pass by the same 2/3 requirement as the California Business Roundtable's measure was proposing for any local measures to pass. So I thought that was going to get through, but I just checked and it's held until November 1st. So any enlightenment on that?
ACA 13 and its sort of companion ACA 1, right, were passed by the legislature and are going to the 2024 ballot. There has been a lot of speculation as to why they were placed in either the March or November timeframe. I would have thought, from my perspective watching, that ACA 13 would have been done in March and then ACA 1 in November. So unfortunately, I don't have hard and fast information on why that decision was made.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I'm looking at LegInfo, and on the history it says held at desk by unanimous consent until November 1st, 2023.
That is so that it doesn't automatically go to the March 2024 ballot. They want that one scheduled for the November 2024 ballot. So that will pass off the desk in a month or so, and then we'll see that in a year from now on the ballot.
Fantastic. Thanks for that insight.
Director Zaragoza.
Yeah, Bruce, there was definitely a push from the governor's office to clear the decks for the governor's mental health infrastructure bond to be the only thing on the ballot in March. It's also going to be a precursor to any tax bonds that are on the ballot for 24. There's not a lot of appetite, from what we've seen in polling, but there was definitely a push to keep this sort of, I think, on its own for March. So that's why you saw it move to where it's at, or the other one moved to November.
Thank you, Mr. Zaragoza. And, there's entrenchment in all these bond measures, and there's a lot of competition, and when the voters go to the pump, if they don't have a hybrid vehicle, their threshold or their tolerance for any bond measure diminishes with every gallon they pump in their car.
Could be challenging this year in general. That's true. That'll be interesting to see. All right. Is there
Okay,
anything else, Kiana?
just a couple quick more slides. Will be as brief as possible. Of course, happy to have continued conversation though. Wanted to just highlight for everyone the status of Brown Act legislation as the legislative session ended mid-September. The one bill I think that is more applicable to SACOG. There was a second bill, SB 411 by Portantino, that made it to the governor's desk as well, but only applies to jurisdictions in Los Angeles County. So AB 557 by Assemblymember Hart is a 2-year extension on the existing emergency provisions to do remote meetings. So that's on the governor's desk, but the broader changes did stall. AB 817 Pacheco, which is the version or the measure that a lot of local governments individually and their associations, CalCog, the League, CSAC, all of those folks had put their effort behind. And then SB 537 Becker is another one. In chatting with a colleague late Friday afternoon about the fate of these measures next year, like what is going to change next year that didn't happen this year to get progress on those issues. Chair Thomas, you've experienced very recently some of the more negative consequences of opening up meetings telephonically.
Yes,
But we know there are a lot of tremendous benefits of those meetings being remote hearings. So as I understand it, there are some potential lawsuits pending in the Bay Area from disability advocates and others that want to see those broader changes take effect into perpetuity. We have these dynamics popping up in and around Sacramento. It's very visible. People are sort of seeing and hearing continued challenges around remote meetings. And so the third thing that I think may change the conversation is we do have a new chair or newer chair in the Assembly Local Government Committee, Assemblymember Carrillo. And so all of those factors have the potential to create some space for additional movement on those bills next year. And so the feedback I had gotten from those that worked on those bills more closely was going to be a lot of conversations this fall, a lot of interest to pursue those measures next year, and we'll see what can be done.
Very
Director
interesting. Yeah.
Stallard?
Director Stallard.
Yes, I read recently that because of problems they're having at Sacramento City Council, that they are refusing public comment via phone in. Basically, you have to appear in person to comment, or you send an email. I was wondering about the legality of that.
There are a lot of jurisdictions that have recently experienced the Zoom bombing that El Dorado County did last Tuesday that are considering that course of action. And it's unfortunately very challenging for our residents that, El Dorado County is 1,800 square miles. If we were to take that course of action, the majority of our population couldn't access our public meetings, which would be very challenging. So, Director Haudeshelt.
Yeah, no, and Colfax just experienced it as well last week. And my understanding from our city clerk is there are a lot of city clerks around the state who are going to be phasing out, as you said, Chair Thomas, something that provides a little bit more open transparency to, or transparency for government and accessibility to government. So.
Challenging time. Yeah. Director Davin Calvillo.
Yes, I was just going to say that the city of Auburn, we just took action to eliminate our public comment via Zoom. And so public comment can be emailed to us, or it can be provided in person because of these Zoom bombings that have happened to yourself, Sacramento City, and then most notably to Colfax here in Placer County. So it's happening.
Mm.
Now, that's not just for open forum, is it for all your agenda items?
Yes, it'll be unless if presenters can still present, but our public comment will be via email or in person at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Challenging. We have some insights from legal. We would
Yes, I thought I would
welcome,
just chime in because this is
welcome
something
your
that we
thoughts.
have been dealing with. I guess a caution. That's something that we're looking at too, the legality of closing off public comment in that way. But what I would caution is that if you're meeting remotely under the Brown Act carve-outs for remote meetings, there are sometimes restrictions that say you have to allow real-time public comment via the same method that members of the board may be calling in from. And so there may be some concern if you have board members or council members zooming in, you have to make Zoom comment available. But if you're attending, if you've got your whole body there in person, then you are allowed to only accept public comments in the same way that all of the members are attending. So just something to be aware of. If you've got members attending remotely, you may also have to offer the remote comment.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Really appreciate that insight. Thank you so much. As we're all really wrestling and struggling to find our way through this unfortunate new reality that we're dealing with. So
difficult. It is.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, so yeah, Kiana, you opened a can of worms for us all.
I know. We knew it was an important topic for this committee in SACOG and all of its member cities and counties. So I will do this slide very quickly. This is a positive way to end, right? For $5.1 billion coming to regional agencies over the next 4 years through a couple of new programs. When we had put this slide deck together, it was before September 30th. So I can say that the final guidelines for these programs, the Transit Intercity Rail Capital Program and Zero Emission Transit Capital Program, were issued on Friday. They have, as far as I understand it, resolved some of the concerns around capping the administrative costs. But by and large, the feedback that I have received and that I sort of concluded myself, I think, was that the guidelines do delegate significant decision-making to regions. So all things considered, those programs seem to be set up to do well. There are a lot of actions, though, between now and December 31st to access that money, both a lot of data that needs to be compiled, and some of it can be complex. And I think smaller jurisdictions are struggling a little bit more than larger ones, but even the large ones, this is a new role for our TPAs. And I anticipate a lot of work between now and the end of the year to access that money coming forward. But it's hundreds of millions of dollars to the region over the next 4 years. So really a positive development, that happened mid-year, and that for a while we were sort of speculating might not occur because of the budget situation. So I see a hand raised, and I'll leave it at that if that's good.
All right, ending on a high note. Great. Director Zaragoza.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So 2 questions, one for Kiana, one for SACOG staff. So Kiana, are these funds ARPA related funds that are still been squirreled away or are these general fund dollars?
It's state general fund dollars. With the exception, I think a portion, the 1.1 billion may come from non-general fund sources, potentially cap and trade. I can follow up with you on that. But a majority, at least the 4 billion is general fund, and then special funds for a portion or all of the 1.1 billion.
Okay, because I'm just wondering how, and I'll put it in quotes, air quotes, I guess, real that those funds are, depending on where how much more of a budget shortfall we're going to have next fiscal year.
I think they are quite real. From where I'm sitting today, they look and feel quite real, and I know agency is working diligently with all of the its regional partners to get those dollars out the door.
Great, thank you. And then for SACOG, I'm just wondering, is there anything that we're currently working on that we're getting in prior to the deadline here for December 31st to access any of these funding opportunities?
Yeah, so we've already, our staff has been meeting with the Transit Coordinating Committee, and just to highlight again how this will work in the SACOG region, this is flowing through as a state program. And so El Dorado, EDCTC, and Placer, PCTPA, they have their own allocations. And so we're still coordinating across the 6 counties because the TCC is all 6. But for just the 4-county area, it's $238 million. So it's a significant one-time infusion of funding. There's an item going to the Transportation Committee on Thursday And we imagine we'll probably be bringing things every single month because there's a lot of policy questions for the board to deal with on how to handle this funding and what to do to really make a worthwhile investment with what we've been given.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
All right, excellent. Well, Kiana, thank you so much for the robust update that spurred a lot of great conversation. Thank you, directors. One more conversation or question or comment from Director Hatchell.
Yes, so this might bridge both the reports we have. So the governor has named his preference for a replacement for Senator Feinstein. What is that process now from here on out?
Who would like to tackle that one?
Jason is still on, but I believe in the absence of a sitting senator, the governor appoints.
The appointment is made and it is official until the next
election, right?
cycle.
Right.
Okay, so it's not like it has to go through any state or federal. So his preference can be seated as soon as her plane lands at Reagan, right?
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, it's different than like a state appointment, whereas like when he did Shirley Weber, it had to go through Senate Rules Committee. So if you're doing a statewide elected official, then it does have Senate rules oversight and it goes through the Senate. But for this particular one, or for like a supervisor, and then or a county supervisor, it would is automatically seated.
Yeah, not bad for a guy from Arizona law, huh? So there we go. I
All
lost
right.
track of whether they won or not the other night.
All right, well, let's move
We
on.
lost.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jason and Kiana. Appreciate the federal and state updates. Let's move on to Dustin, who will give us a mega region working group summary. Good morning, Dustin.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, directors. Again, Dustin Foster, transportation planner here at SACOG. I staff the mega region. It's been a great year. And I'll just be providing a brief verbal report out of the meeting. The mega region working group, which held its third and final meeting of the year this past Friday, September 29th. Quick, bit on the mega region working group. It's a partnership between MTC in the Bay Area, SACOG, and SJCOG. Each of the three agencies have 4 representatives from our board at each agency. SACOG Director Gore has done a wonderful job this year leading the group as chair. So the working group supports a list of priority topics that help better connect the people and economies of our mega region. And the partners work together to advocate to federal and state governments on important policies and funding opportunities. A bit on the funding opportunities. This includes a priority project list of 12 key projects across the region. We call it the Mega Region Dozen. We do some advocacy and some branding for those projects. We'll talk about a few of them in a moment. But the meeting's focus topic was on the transition to zero emission vehicles for transit. But they also covered some items looking ahead to 2024, since it's the last meeting of the year. So on the big focus topic, the working group invited an esteemed panel of speakers, kicked off by Craig Bossman at MTC. He presented on that regional lens for the full Bay Area and their zero emission transit transition strategy. He provided an overview of the current deployment efforts, the challenges, and the opportunities facing the entire region. In our region, we wanted to show the strong partnerships that we have here between Sacramento Regional Transit, our air district, Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District, and SMUD. So speakers from each of those agencies really talked about their key part in supporting the Sacramento zero emission vehicle transition. They focus on SAC-RT light rail and bus vehicles, excuse me. We really heard about how they're working together, the investment needs, power needs, some really interesting anecdotes. The Air District had calculated an investment need of about $540 million for RT to convert. And to power the bus fleet alone, they will need 15 megawatts of power. That's about equivalent to 3 Levi's stadiums worth of space to provide that power. So a big challenge, but also a big opportunity. Will Ritter at Valley Link presented on their hydrogen vision, right? So that they have an opportunity to produce hydrogen at their maintenance and operations facility to power their brand new light rail, or excuse me, heavy rail vehicles that will be powered by hydrogen, really supported by a lot of state innovations and pilots down in Southern California looking at that very issue. So very interesting stuff there. And then finally, Adam Hansen from Yuba Sutter Transit presented on their next gen transit facility, which will enable them to convert their fleet and also produce solar and maybe even hydrogen on the site. So very interesting stuff to hear about the challenges, the partnerships, the costs, also the consideration of hydrogen as well as the battery electric vehicles, really to provide that technology where it makes sense. So really cool stuff to learn from them. I provided a funding update. You provided that funding update at every meeting. We celebrated a lot of funding over the summer. I think Director Howdeshell maybe may have something to say about this, but we celebrated Capitol Corridor's third track project. Phase 1 received a lot of funding over the summer. Very recently, last week, we heard the federal government awarded $42.5 million from the Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvements Program, CRISI. And so that really supported Phase 1 in addition to a $25 million award earlier this summer from the state, Solutions for Congested Corridors. So great advocacy, a really awesome success story. I don't know if Director Howdeshell wants to say something now or hold comments for later. Or another director.
I've never known Director Howdeshell to be at a loss for words.
No, and before we started, I mentioned that Friday we had the Deputy Rail Administrator, Jennifer Mitchell, here, along with the Administrator for CalSTA at the Roseville Depot. And it was a memorable day, and looking forward to 2028 when the second train actually pulls into the station and I get on board.
Well said.
Be happy to join you there, Director. All right,
We
great.
all will.
Awesome, it's a plan. All right, so then 2 of the other Mega Region Dozen projects from the Bay Area also received full funding. So we celebrated those projects. The Interstate 80 westbound truck scales replacement and the Port of Oakland Green Power Microgrid projects, they received freight funds from the state Trade Corridor Enhancement Program. So we kind of went over a process. MTC, they have an internal process and a major project advancement policy that they will consult, and they'll, in a future Mega Region meeting, they will present on 2 new projects that they want to add to the Mega Region Dozen list. Finally, so yeah, very exciting stuff there. And then finally, really just since it was the last meeting of the year, there's some changeover items looking at next year, closing out and moving on to 2024. We are rotating the chair to SJCOG, and vice chair is going to MTC. Diane Wynn, who's the executive director from SJCOG, presented on the plans for 2024, including there's a lot of interest in having the 2nd annual Mega Region Sacramento Lobby Day. There was a lot of success after the first meeting held earlier this April. And then, yeah, just really continued support for those Mega Region Dozen projects and moving them from that list of priorities to fully funded and head into construction. Finally, the Mega Region approved save the dates for next year. So they're always at the last Friday of the month from 12:30 to 2:30 p.m. So they're being held Friday, January 26th, 2024, Friday, April 26th, and September 27th. With that, I will hold for any questions, comments.
All right, well, thank you, Dustin. There's certainly a lot to celebrate there. Congratulations to everyone involved. And I think we were very blessed to have Director Gore as the chair of that, initiative and launch of that. And just, she does such a good job to represent SACOG and to convene folks to find the common good and to work together. So just kudos to Chair Gore and to everyone that was involved in the Mega and our staff that just has done a wonderful job this year and look forward to next year. Any other comments or questions from directors? No? All right. Well, congratulations again, Dustin. Thank you for the excellent report. Wonderful. And with that, we have Mia that's up next, that's going to give us a glimpse at the South Sacramento area tour. Good
Yes,
morning.
thank you so much. Good morning. Happy Monday, everyone. I'm happy to be here. My name is Mia Lopez. I'm on the communications team here at SACOG. As you all may have heard, I believe James made an announcement at the last meeting. We are inviting all of you to join us at the South Sacramento area tour, which follows our board meeting on Thursday, October 19th. The tour is part of our board practices objective of the Racial Equity Action Plan, and the goal and purpose of these tours are to collaborate with partners and CBOs engaged in racial equity work and to facilitate at least one site visit a year in the region. The tour program is focused on racial equity and inclusion, barriers and successes. So as part of this work, we've actually been working with La Familia and the Franklin Boulevard Business District, Mutual Housing, and even Sacramento RT, who will be attending the tour, and they're going to be talking about projects happening in the South Sacramento area. I've been learning a lot through this process, and I can tell you there is a lot of activity spurring and much to explore during the hours that we have there. Some of the highlights include touring La Familia's campus. We'll get to see their new Opportunity Campus in progress and learn how they have shaped the Franklin District Climate and Revitalization Playbook, and also how they're bringing livability and spurring investment at the community level to provide more resources to their community members. We'll be driving through the Franklin Boulevard Business District, where they will be sharing the history of the district and the role that the business district has played in supporting family-owned businesses, and also learn more about upcoming Complete Streets projects that's set to break ground next year. And also, we'll be stopping by the San Juan Motel site, which on Stockton Boulevard, and the project has received $2 million in early activation funding from Green Means Go. And we'll hear from Sacramento County and Mutual Housing on the challenges and the future of this affordable housing project. So there's a lot packed into the agenda, and we hope that the majority of our board members can attend. If you're available, I hope you'll stay after the board meeting to join us. It will begin and end at La Familia at the Maple Neighborhood Center, where the board meeting is taking place, and we'll be back by 2 p.m. and program includes lunch. So you can RSVP to me by sending an email, and we hope to see you at the tour, and let me know if you have any questions.
All right, thank you, Mia, and just thank you to everyone that's coordinating this exciting agenda. Encourage all the directors to RSVP to Mia if your schedule allows, and that sounds like a wonderful afternoon. Thank you so much. Any comments or questions from directors? All right, thank you all. So with that, that is the end of our information item. On our agenda is item number 10, to receive and file the fiscal year 2022-23 12-month budget status report. If you like to read that summary, if you haven't already done so, I encourage you to do so. Are there any other comments by our SACOG staff before we adjourn this meeting?
Just a reminder that we'll see you again in October on the 30th for the next meeting of this committee. So moving things up a little bit. So do check your dates for the rest of the year. We have an early board meeting on November 9th. That'll be happening at the Sac State Alumni Center in person. So several opportunities to see folks in person. And then we will also have a December board meeting on December 21st. So yeah, that's all we had for announcements for today.
Great, thank you for that reminder, Eric. And I would like to just close in memory of Senator Feinstein. Whether you were a Republican or a Democrat, her legacy of service is unparalleled, and she certainly served our region with her whole heart, and was just a good friend to our region. So just in memory and gratitude for her legacy of service. So yes. And with that, enjoy your Monday, and we will see you soon. Thank you so much for joining us and being with us. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.